Imagery, or visualisation as it's sometimes known, is a process through which you use your senses to create or recreate a scenario in your mind's eye. It's a technique that is used a lot by sports people, so you may already be familiar with it. For example, when I was competing, I used to use imagery to run through my race before I stepped onto the track as part of my pre-race routine. The key thing to remember about imagery is that it's a multi-sensory experience. In other words, you don't just see the scenario, you should also hear it, feel it, and even smell it to make it as real as possible. As well as being useful in sport generally, imagery can be a really useful tool in sport injury rehabilitation. There are 4 main types of imagery that can be used: skill practice imagery, relaxation imagery, pain management imagery, and healing imagery. Skill practice imagery, as its name suggests, is where you mentally practice sport skills. This is particularly useful when an injury means that you are unable to perform skills physically, as it helps to minimise the losses of skill that can occur during long periods of injury. There has been lots of interesting research studies done on this, which have found that mentally practicing a skill fires the same neural pathways as physically practicing it, but without the movement. So whilst physical practice of a skill is best, if you can't do this, mental practice is almost as good and is definitely better than no practice at all. Relaxation imagery is really useful to combat the feelings of stress and anxiety that commonly occur during injury. It's important to be able to relax and de-stress during what can be a very stressful time, sports injury, and relaxation imagery can help. I often use imagery of being in a relaxing place like lying on a beach when I need to de-stress, something you'll have an opportunity to try later. Pain is an unfortunate part of sports injury. Both the pain from the injury itself and the pain of treatment can be difficult to cope with, and so pain management imagery can help you to cope with that pain. It can take different forms, such as using imagery of being somewhere nice to distract you from the pain, or using imagery of having a pain-reducing heat pack on the injured area. Healing imagery is probably the most difficult form of imagery to get your head round because it sounds a bit weird, but I promise you it does work. It involves imagining the injured tissues healing by, for example, imagining healing blood cells flowing to the injured area, or imagining armies of soldiers moving into the injured area and repairing it. You'll find out more about these 4 types of imagery as you progress through the materials on the hub, and you will have the opportunity to try them all out. One thing to point out, particularly if imagery is new to you, is that different athletes will have different levels of imagery ability. Some athletes will find imagery really easy to pick up and will be able to easily imagine different scenarios using all of their senses, while others might find it more difficult and will need to develop their imagery skills before imagery can become more effective. As with any skill, practice makes perfect, and the more practice you do, the better you will be at imagery. If you do have difficulty with imagery, you will find some exercises to help you develop your imagery skills on the hub. I hope you enjoy the imagery exercises in the hub and find them useful. I look forward to seeing your feedback on them in the discussion forum and in your diary.